you mentioned, susceptibility to the Russian wheat aphid, and I can't say that I have the specific answer to the specific problem in this context, but as you've kind of just heard in the webinar there, and as we've just touched on, I would be taking that holistic approach. I would be using multiple strategies, but we're looking at nutrition and biology. But if you're talking aphids, there's some good examples out there linking the presence of aphids, particularly to plants that have high nitrates in them. So, I'm not saying that it is the case in this instance, but it could be a likely candidate that you have a nitrogen imbalance in the plant, so too much nitrates. Sap-sucking insects are particularly attracted to the nitrates. So if you've got an excess of nitrates in the plant, that is going to suggest you may have a limitation of molybdenum, most likely, or sulfur or iron. Those are the other three minerals that help to convert those nitrates into, ultimately, to nitrite, then ammonium, and the amino acid and protein. So I would suggest looking at your nitrates. I would consider a foliar spray of molybdenum, possibly sulfur and or iron. As I touched on in the presentation, we also talked about the links with silicon, and I showed that the sapsuckers can bypass some of those silicon protection in the plant, but still there is that evidence that shows that when that silicon is deposited right in those cell walls, that does also stop the aphid. So, and those sapsuckers. So I would also maybe perhaps consider looking at silicon as well. And you could do foliar sprays of things like potassium silicate, or silicic acid is another input that can also be applied. So yeah, I would be looking at nutritional things like that as my first guess. But ultimately, I would do some kind of a tissue test or a sap analysis. I would look at the mineral status. I would address whatever is actually limiting according to the test. That's what I would do through a foliar spray for rapid response.